Yeah,
Good to go.
just just say 1, 2, 3. So I'll start there.
Okay. One, two.
So hello friends, welcome to yet another episode of Cricket Careers presented by Golafik Ballaguma. And my name is Dishank, and I have Rohan Padaya as my co-host with me.
Mhm.
So I was just going through my, the news feeds, and I came across the news that there are discussions going on regarding rescheduling of the second half of the IPL on the in the August and September.
September. Correct.
Yeah. So that triggered a thought in my mind that which is the which team has performed very well in recent years, or
Correct.
there is an improvement in their performance. So the
Mhm.
team that came to my mind was Delhi Capitals. So Rohan, what do you think? Like, what may be the reasons for their improvement in the performance?
I guess there are multiple factors behind their success. One is firstly they changed their name and logo, and many other teams believe in that superstition, but it did work for them. The other is that they've invested in youngsters quite a lot. Prithvi Shaw, Indian youngsters especially. Prithvi Shaw, Shreyas Iyer, Rishabh Pant. So all these players are reaping benefits to them right now. And one more major factor I think is Ricky Ponting as a coach. He's been excellent, and I think he's brought that aura in the team. And yeah, so these are some of the factors I think that have been beneficial for them as a team.
I agree totally with you, but these are the factors that are visible to the audiences, like the players, the coaches, and stuff. But there are lots of work that is done by the supporting staff behind the scenes,
Correct,
and
correct.
they are not appreciated that well. So
Hmm.
today we have with us the performance analyst of the Delhi Capitals. So before
Hmm.
introducing him, let me just give a brief introduction about him. So he started his journey into the sports industry as a video analyst with the ICL, and then there
Hmm.
was no looking back. He worked as an analyst across many sports like
Hmm.
kabaddi, football, cricket, and basically we'll be focusing more on cricket. So he has been associated with many international cricket teams like Afghanistan, um then Zimbabwe.
Hmm.
As a consultant, as an sports analyst, as a
Hmm.
performance analyst,
Hmm.
and recently he has joined Delhi Capitals in November 2017.
Yes.
And since then, you can see the improvement in their performance. Like in 2019, they qualified for their playoffs after 7 years.
Hmm.
And in 2020, they were the finalists as well. And in 2021, also they were performing really well, like they are in the top four. So they have their performance has improved. So big the reason the main credit should also go to the support staff of the Delhi
Staff as
Capitals, and
well.
we have with
Absolutely.
us the performance analyst of Delhi Capitals, that is none other Sir Sriram Soumya Jula, sir. So welcome, sir, to our show.
Hello
Hello,
guys,
sir. Hello, hello.
how are you?
Firstly, sir, thank you for giving us your time, especially in this tough times. It's difficult to find schedule, so thank you very much for giving us your time.
My
And
pleasure. Thank you.
to start with, I want to ask you a technical question straight away because it's really important for the rest of the podcast, for the people and the audiences to know this. So, could you explain in brief what is the role of a performance analyst in a team?
Analytics is there in every walk of life, right? You talk about analysis is part of everyone's life. I mean, it cannot be uh, taken away from humans' routine in today's life. You talk about FMCG, you talk about medical, pharmaceutical, you talk about any field, automobile, sports, everywhere analytics is there today. And then without analytics, I think the world is not moving ahead now. So when I mean analytics, it's all about data. Data is power. Data is money today.
Absolutely.
So data is ruling the world. I mean, even take the case of COVID today. I mean, we all talk numbers. 35,000 cases, 20,000 cases, 500,000 cases, 400,000. So it's all about numbers at the end of the day. But how much of this data can really be used, and how much of it can be really inferred out of, that is important. So
Hmm.
the numbers have to be used in a good way,
Meaningful way. Yeah.
in a meaningful way, right? The reason is, a lot of people come and say that yes, we have information in front of us. There's so much of information in a game where we want to plan about the opposition. But I think, personally speaking, the information can be made available, but how much of it the players can actually take it on the field and be able to execute them, that is important. So,
Hmm.
like I started telling you that the analytics is possible in every walk of life. The
Hmm.
information is possible, is available with us in every single form, that we can take it to the players or to the staff, the coaches, for them to be able to plan ahead, all of
Hmm.
that. But the amount of work that goes behind every sport, or any sport rather, is massive. For me to be able to achieve one single information which is precise to the point, or to our game planning, there's a lot of work that goes behind. So I think, to explain what is analysis in simple terms, it's about defining, the problem statement. So
Hmm.
you should be able to define the problem statement. What is analysis? I mean, you have a problem, which is where you're dissecting the data. You're able to go into the details of what the problem is, right? So defining what is your problem statement and be able to find a solution to it.
Hmm. Nicely put, actually. People don't really recognize that how much, like, everybody knows that there is data in the backend, but to use that data and use it in a way to identify what the problem is, like you said, I guess that is pretty much the essence of how a performance analyst work. Uh, but sir, what are the skill sets, basic skill sets required for a youngster to become a performance analyst? Could you explain that?
You see, I keep telling this time and again. There is no such thing called a skill set.
Mm-hmm.
What I did, as an undergraduate, was BCom, and then I went on to do what I'm doing today in my career. So a lot of them, I know, they have done mechanical engineering, and then they've got into the field of sports analytics. People are in contrast,
Correct.
jobs from what they have studied. So it is not about what you have studied in the past, what you have acquired as your educational qualification
Mm.
from the past. It's all about passion that you should have in this industry. Of course, domain knowledge and subject knowledge are very, very important. When I say that, I think, either you should have played the game, or you should have the inclination towards understanding the game. You should have watched, say, for instance, with all respect again, Harsha Bogle has never played the sport to that extent, but he is one of the stalwarts and experts in the commentary field. So
Commentary.
I think, someone like him who understands the game so much deeper than many of the coaches themselves. I'm not putting anybody down. I'm not sort of comparing him with anyone. But the
Mm-hmm.
point that I'm trying to make is, you don't have to necessarily have played the game to understand, but you should have the in-depth
Knowledge.
knowledge of it. That's important.
Correct.
So I would say, personally, passion is very important. But like I said again, if passion is all that one has to have as a criteria, or as an eligibility factor to
Mm-hmm.
qualify as an analyst, I would say no to that. But also, with passion, you should have the determination and the perseverance. Because, I mean, when I say determination, again, it's about how much are you committed in this field of work, and how much can you go forward with that. Sometimes you will see failure, sometimes you will see challenging times ahead of you. You will have to
Mm-hmm.
go past all that, and then be able to establish yourself very strongly, very authoritatively. What you go through in during that period is something that will teach you a lot of experiences. And then keep pursuing it. Just because you have had one or two failures, people might disagree with your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
but just because that they disagree, that doesn't mean that you're not good, right?
Correct.
So
Yes.
keep pursuing with that idea. Keep yourself motivated. Find new avenues. Keep finding a lot of insights. But whatever insights, whatever information we are trying to achieve, right? Out of the inferences that we make,
Mm-hmm.
have to be foolproof. I mean, nobody wants to listen to somebody's stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I say something, I should back it up with an evidence,
Correct, correct. Absolutely.
right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
in our country, I would say, we are a 130 crore populated country here, right? Where almost 60% of them are commentators when they watch a game, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe more, right? Everybody has an opinion, everybody has their own view, but really and truly, the people who play inside and the people who are attached to the game on the bench are the ones actually who are going and winning it for you, right? And many of
Correct.
them are still good from outside. I mean, there are people who are still, they talk well, the experts are talking, but you will have to give it to the people who are actually on that, on that field.
Field.
So my point is that unless we have something substantiated which can talk for itself, which has a lot of evidence, and then it proves that yes, this is the working model, and which is what these people have done, I
Mm.
think we should not, randomly just comment about it.
Generalize the term. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And as you mentioned it, like perfectly, like you had done a BCom, and now you are working in this field. So as your fan personally, actually, I'm really interested. Like, was it like, were you had you thought have any thoughts in mind that I want to become a performance analyst, and you did your you took your decisions after become accordingly, or you just stumble upon this, or you just got an opportunity and you got into this field? So how was that transition from BCom to
Hmm.
in as a performance or a sports analyst?
I've answered this many a times. Again, let me repeat this. Uh, my my job currently right now, the role that I am doing right now, I'm very lucky to be doing what I love. Like what many of the others love, like what I really passionate about, right? So I should thank all the stars, gods, whatever, to be doing what I am doing today. But I think I'm one of those lucky chosen ones to be in this industry, but I had my own hardships as well. Yes, when I did my BCom, my parents said that you should continue doing your studies. Academics is something that will not leave you, and that is something that will give you results like any other Indian parent would say, right? My mother never wanted me to be in this field of work. She says, "What, cricket? No. Sports? No. It is not going to feed you," and things like
Hmm.
that. So I went on to do my certified public accounts. I finished my foundation level, and I sort of qualified from there. And then that's how my career started to shape up, from BCom to CPA. CPA is American accounting, so you will. It's like the parallel to a CA, and
Hmm.
I never wanted to do any of those. And then I had a parallel career. I was actually playing cricket. Then one fine day, I was playing for Kemplast Cricket Club in Chennai, where
Hmm.
Mr. Bharat Reddy was, sort of mentoring the team, and all cricketers, all ex-cricketers, current cricketers, R. Ashwin, Dinesh Karthik, all of these people are coming from that league, that club. So we all played together, and then one fine day I said, and it was Mr. Bharat Reddy actually who said to me that you are a qualified IT professional. Why don't you do something with your knowledge? Why don't you bring something on the table with the technology for the team? Because we are one of the top elite teams in this cricket league in Tamil Nadu, and
Hmm.
a lot of players like Piyush Chawla, Dinesh Mongia. You can talk about the former cricketers. They all played for this team, and it's a
Hmm.
proper corporate setup. So he asked me to do something in which coincided with our passion and what I could actually do. And I had thought to myself, maybe I'm not too good as a cricketer to be playing anymore. So I gave up with a lot of injuries again, persisting, and then I said, okay, this is enough for me. Let me take over this as a career for me now. So that's how I started this. And I had a pilot run, and I did this for about 3 months. I loved it, and I did not know the future of this at all. Wherein the people who asked me to pursue, they gave me a lot of motivation. They said, like, you must continue with this. You see, you're good at what you're doing. Whether I didn't even know they were accepting what I'm saying or not. They just said, okay, okay, do. They take the information and they go. That's it. So one fine day, it came up and then they said there is a league called Indian Cricket League, which is no longer there, ICL.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It started really in 2005, 6.
Yeah.
So it was then Mr. Bharat Reddy who asked me to go and work in that league. And I mean, he was our mentor. So obviously, when that age you listen to them and grow up, isn't it? So I started with that. It was a massive experience for me working with Michael Bevan, Steve Rickson, Moin Khan, Inzamam Mullah, all these ex cricketers, and that time they were still coming out of just those active cricket, and then you still see them as stars, and go and rub shoulders with them, work with them, understand the game. It
Mhm.
was very very fruitful. That's where it started. And then moving on from there is lot of associate nations that I worked with: Nepal, USA Cricket, Singapore, Malaysia. So for all of these associates, I had a target to myself. Whenever I had worked with any of these teams, I said to
Mhm.
myself, is there a purpose to what I'm doing? Yes, they pay me, I work for them, but what is the purpose behind it? I need to sort of establish that connection with the what is my purpose, what is why they are hiring me, and what
Mhm.
I will give them in return. So that is more like an ROI that I derive for them. So at the end of it, so every team that I have worked in the associate level, they either have
Mhm.
qualified to the bigger stage or they have gone up in the ranking.
Mhm.
Like for instance, Nepal cricket, for the
Yeah.
first time, we have even qualified to the World Cup. Malaysian cricket, which was on 29 or 31st in the ranking, we brought it down to 23rd, 22nd or 23rd. And
Mhm.
then that gives them a lot of funding. For that gives you an inner satisfaction as well. Yes, money, you get money at the end of the day for what work you do. But the satisfaction is when you actually see the team
Progress.
climbing up the ladder in rankings and see that they benefit out of it. If it is not Sriram there anymore, still they will benefit in some way or the other. That is how we should see it. So that sort of satisfaction that I started getting from this work, and then I eventually progressed to other sports as well: badminton, kabaddi. I also worked a little bit in the Formula One circuit, where I did a little bit of
Yeah. Yeah.
work with as a pit crew as well, in the simulation, Formula One simulation, and that's actually where the drivers go and have a run on the machine before they actually go onto the track and drive. So that was very engaging and I loved it. I mean, I was lucky. I should be for doing all this. Yes, I had inclination towards doing all this. I did not shy away from not doing other sports. And yes, my core was cricket, and I played football as a goalkeeper, and I played badminton to a certain level. So all of this did not stop me from getting on to the other sports, which was a good idea from my side, and I mean it worked. That's all.
Correct.
And
That was really an
and
inspiring story.
also,
Actually, it was really an
yeah,
inspiring story to listen to. So sorry.
and also, sir, like personally, I'm also from an analyst background, so I had this question, like currently in other fields, like in data analyst or something like that, who are working in different industries, they tend to
Mhm.
use same tools like R. There is Python, there is Tableau for visualizations and all this stuff. So, like,
Mhm.
are the same tools used in the sports as well, or are there any other sort of tools that are being used? Because I had read an article like in 2011 or 12, KKR started using SAP HANA for the big data analysis. Are in the sports industry as well, like they also use the same tools, or are there any different tools that are being used?
You see, when it comes to technology, there are a lot of avenues, a lot of ways where we can keep growing, right? Technology,
Hmm.
the good thing about the technology is it never is stagnant. It always keeps you on the
Yeah.
on the move.
Those.
You have to constantly be upgrading yourself to see where you are going, how far you are able to expand yourself, expand your vision, the amount of data that you collect, all of that. So what was in 2007 during the invention of T20 cricket is not the same now. It's gone much deeper. That is all because of data and the usage of data analytics, right? So
Yeah.
a lot of people started understanding the sport in the first 2 years. They took a bit of time to do their research and how the game is played, how it can be useful for people when as viewers, and there is so much of data for that also. Like
Yeah.
viewers are getting how much of, what is the speed, of course, when I come to know that 145 k's somebody is bowling, they pitch on this length, and ball deviates here and there. So it's not basically for just the players inside, it is for the
Mhm.
viewers to get attracted as well. So there is a lot of data that is played around, and that's when actually people started, the broadcasters started realizing that there's so much of value into this data,
Hmm.
right? So even now you see Star Sports is doing a lot of pre-shows, post-shows. Eh, I think it is all 90% based on the data that they collect of the game,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? So the
Hmm.
story is built around it. So there is so many websites to talk about, the performance of the game, post-game, pre-game, all these fantasy leagues and all that. So I think data has evolved so much, right? But when the data is evolving, obviously the byproducts are the tools. So there should be
Hmm.
different tools with it. So it could be as easy as an Excel. It could be a simple tool like a Tableau or even a Power BI, which
Hmm.
necessarily need not complicate your thought process. Basically, it's all to concise your thought process. How much of your thought process is concised into into a nutshell? Just bring it in that small format, which can be effectively produced in front of a coach or a player,
Hmm.
Mm.
and that's what we do. So I use Microsoft tools, Tableau. I use 90%. I trust on Excel. These are all simple ways of understanding because you can't complicate it. See, yes, there are softwares to be developed, and there are a lot of softwares that I use for the software that I use for capturing the game and be able to analyze the opposition with different modules of
Different.
reporting solutions. All that is also there.
Hmm.
But when it comes to predictive analysis, predictive tools, as in, as the game goes on, there will be a lot of questions that will be raised from the coaches, and then coaches might ask you suddenly, what if this batsman goes up, what happens to the matchup, and things like that. So those are all, on the go thinking that we have. And the tool that we get, like I said, is used in the Power BI, or it could be a simple Excel tool, or it's just that I use all those tools pre-game, and during the game I just make my notes. it's
Uh,
it's uh, it's not so much about just the notes. It's much more,
Hmm.
the work in progress, or the work that you do from the back end.
Correct. So, sir, you mentioned that the game has evolved and it is a lot more dependent on data now. So, I read one article of yours in your on your blog, and it was an interesting article. Like the first time I read something where the data is mentioned, and then they've explained how the data was used to make a decision in a game. Like for example, last year in 2020 IPL season, Delhi in an eliminator against SRH played Marcus Stoinis, and there was a reasoning given based on his data in BBL that his performance as an opener has been good. So was it during the decision making, was data used to make that decision during that time?
That decision was made because of the data only. So
Okay.
we knew how we were to bring in Marcus Stoinis as an opener. And if you see the last year, we had a lot of wickets that, I mean, on average about 2 or 2.4 wickets fell in the power play for us. uh,
Mm-hmm.
and mostly, we had issues in the power play, so we had to have an alternate solution to it, and then we brought Marcus Stoinis. I mean, it could have been anybody else. Why Marcus Stoinis? That's because he did pretty well in the Big Bash,
Which
and
match?
his
Yes.
strike rate was about 145 plus. And then we thought that okay, he was one of the makeshift openers, which could potentially bring in Rashid Khan in the power play, and then that will leave us 2 hours of gap later on in the innings for us to be giving Rishabh Pant or Hetmeyer a chance to go and fire.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it worked in our favor initially, and then probably, we thought we could do something else. Yes, but what we thought of Stoinis, that particular role, we achieved. We got some massive success. I think it
Yes.
was 65 or 70 no loss we were.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was a classic example of using data and making a decision. So that was really a good
Absolutely,
article. And I
absolutely.
am actually looking forward to more of such articles where data is used and then explanation is given. Like earlier, you just get the article and the decision being made. But using data and then explaining, that was really good article. So I'm actually looking forward to more of this in future.
And yes, as you mentioned, sir, like we discussed how decision is made in a particular match. But what about like which player to go with or during an auction, right? Because we have seen you in the auction table sitting with the Delhi Capitals owners, giving your important feedbacks and stuff. So I had this question, like we have data, like we have a data for a overseas player because they are playing international cricket, they are playing across the globes various different T20 leagues. But what about the uncapped Indian players, because we don't have much of a data to analyze or to take a decision? So what are the strategy, like the strategy is same for both, for making the decision for both the uncapped players whether to buy him or not, or for an international player to whether to buy him or not, or the strategies are different for both of them?
No, see, a cricketer is analyzed the same way, but the volume of cricket that individual has played might have, been different.
Yeah.
It
Mhm.
might be more and less. But the way you analyze a cricketer, I cannot say Ripal Patel is as same as Marcus Stoinis, but Lalit Yadav can be as same as Ripal Patel because they come from here. What we expect out of the overseas players are always higher
Mm.
because they come with that tag, and then as opposed to local, Indian players. Uh, but in the Indian players itself, if you compare Lalit Yadav versus Hardik Pandya, they are two different players,
Mm.
right? But
Mhm.
the position that they bat, both are same. But Hardik Pandya has more experience than Lalit Yadav. Maybe Lalit Yadav is a potential who can be another Hardik Pandya in the future as a batsman, right?
Hmm.
Correct,
So
correct.
we
Mhm.
see some potentials as well. There is a thin line that we
Okay.
draw and say, look, this guy is has got the same strike rate, similar average, same height, potential, all of that. But we also have to see what he has contributed in the domestic, whether he has played good quality bowlers or he is just, where does he stand? So there are a lot of parameters that we do the rankings based on that, and the obviously the coaches at the end of the day, also put in the faith on those players and see whether he will make it good for the team or not.
Correct, correct. So it's a informed decisions, like all the coaches, managements, and the data has been shown, and then the decision is made, right?
Of
To whether
course,
to, yeah.
of course, yes. The
Okay.
ultimate decision maker is the head coach. So,
Hmm.
of course, the owners are part of the discussions, the management are part of the discussion. But yes, the ultimate person who makes the decision is the head coach of any franchise in the world. That's
Mhm.
Okay.
because the coach has to have the trust, and secondly, the captain have to have the trust to take the player on the field. So it has to be even the owners of the franchise leagues also,
Mhm.
trust the confidence that the coaches and the
Coaches.
captain at the end of the day. So it is predominantly the coaches who will call shots at the end of the day.
Correct. Like you said, the coaches have influence over the team. How has been Ricky Ponting's influence over the team? How is he as a coach? Does he believe in stats, or how is he as a coach?
Yeah, he's one of the modern um, greats in coaching as well, because he embraces the idea of data and power of data and how that data can be utilized
Mhm.
during the game, before the game, and after the game. He revises the whole thing. You might have come across a lot of these after match
Match.
presentations,
Yes, yes. Speeches.
dressing room talks, all of
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
He sits studiously, he notes down those points, comes and says, I'm looking at this, what are we doing, and things like that. So it's great to have someone like him to be, and also, it's great for me to be sitting and sharing the dressing room with someone like him, to be understanding the game from his perspective. See, we all know he's a legend, right? When he
Yes, yes.
was playing, I think there was probably every opponent would be fearing when he comes into bat. Every bowler will be thinking where else I can bowl, all of that. But his mind that he shift. What I can say is his decision making quality is
Mhm.
so good and unique. And the moment you would be thinking something, but he will be doing completely opposite. And for as you'll be surprised with the decisions that he comes up with. But yes, that's good for the team at the end of the day,
Yes, yes, yes.
right? So he will ask you, he will not leave out anybody. He will have, if there are 10 people available in the table for him to be discussing, he will take consultations from all the 10 people, which is good.
Mhm.
He embraces everyone. He will not leave out any single person. He gives due respect to everyone, and the way he handles the manages people is a superb man manager. The way
Correct.
he has managed people uh, off the field, on the field. I mean, on the field is sitting outside, and when we are in the game, the way he takes charge of the whole thing, and off the field, he's a chilled out person. You can talk to him about any topic. You can
Correct.
talk to
Yes.
him about farming. You can talk to him about any gamings, anything. You
Correct.
just
Correct.
talk about it. I keep you entertained.
I used to get that vibe watching all his speeches, like the post-match speeches that he used to give. He used to give man of the matches, dressing room man of the matches. So that was really a good concept. I enjoyed watching that, and I used to wait after every match when the speech will be uploaded, so that I want to see what Ricky Ponting has to say. And even there, he brings that happy vibe in the team. Even if the team has lost, you could see that he's trying to motivate them,
Absolutely.
explaining the positive points what the team has done. And yeah, in a way he's a legend of the game, and as a coach also is bringing that vibe into the team.
And
Absolutely.
again, as you mentioned, right, Ricky Ponting is an accepting kind of a personality. Like he accepts the data, the changes data has brought into the game. But you have worked with various cricketing teams, various franchises across the globe. So you might have come across some coaches or some captains who back their uh, instincts more than the data. Like they don't tend to believe more about the data, like they are like, oh, that's just a number game,
It
it
happens.
doesn't have to.
It happens everywhere. I mean, mm, it happens even here. So it's not like every single decision is made only on having data as a proof.
Hmm.
Sometimes data can be misleading as well. So
Correct, correct.
like I said to you, number is how you interpret it.
Hmm.
If I have the confidence that there are 6 Yorkers to be bowled, okay, and what happens if I don't execute it well, one of those Yorkers, it can be a half volley, it can be a full toss, and somebody can just hit you for a big six. So it happens in every single team. Yes, someone like a Ricky Ponting embraces the idea, he accepts it pretty much, and he says he lives by it. He says, uh, for everything, that if the data is backing and it is giving you the proof and the evidence, I think he is probably in the top of that list to accept and take embrace the data and
Embrace.
move forward. A lot of them do. A lot of them don't, probably do not have that understanding of the data, or they would probably think that, okay, I think my instinctive decisions make uh,
Mhm.
can be better. So
Mhm.
that's what they feel. So it is up to the individual, and that is where our my role comes into picture. And I can still go and say, look, I can't go and say that you people have failed, now go and take my decision. No,
Hmm.
I can't do that.
Correct, correct.
If the
True.
decision taken by the individual and it did not succeed, I have to be again go to them and say, can we try this method? Now it has not worked for us, because at the end of the day we are all a team.
Hmm.
I'm not seen as an enemy. I am actually seen as a person who will expose the weakness of the others. So people try to think that, okay, this guy, if I go to him, they might share my information to the others. No, that's not my job. My job is to see how I can really go and explain people, if they have not had success, or if they have success, if they have had success, how they can sustain with that, how they can remain in that same constantly to be able to give good performances. Like in many of the matches where we had good bowlers performances, I
Hmm.
go back to them and sit with the bowlers and talk to them, and along with the bowling coach, and explain them, these are the lengths you all have bowled. I think this is what the opposition are trying to do to our batsmen, so we could be effective here, things like that. So
Hmm.
It's not always about working with my data. My data that I provide or I share is one part of it, right?
Hmm.
But also the understanding of the game is equally important.
Correct, correct.
If you see like that, last year, you know, Marcus Stoinis had bowled 30 overs in the all the 17 odd games that he played, whereas this year he bowled comparatively less. But
Yeah.
he's an all-rounder. We could have effectively used him, but
Hmm.
that did not happen this year. He actually went for runs, but he also is not a bad bowler. He's just said, people line it up. So you know, like I said, it's not just about the data. We are not,
Correct, correct.
giving information about it. We also have to see. And he came in a very crucial game in Chennai against Mumbai Indians, and he
Yes,
took
yes.
the wicket of
Open the
Kuldeep Yadav. Yeah, that was
open the
again
bowling.
basis on the data. We brought him that. So
Correct,
when
correct.
we had discussions, we wanted to have Stoinis to come and bowl the first over, and he
It
did the
worked.
job for us. Yeah, it
Yeah,
worked.
yeah, yeah. It worked. Like, sir, we all know what preparation of players is like before a game. Like, they do net practice and then do all the other stuffs. But for a performance analyst, how does a day before a game look like? How do you prepare yourself for the game?
It starts 2 3 days before. So for
Um,
me, it is after the IPL. I will not immediately go into the resting mode because I know post IPL I need to do the post mortem of the entire tournament
Mhm.
for our
Mhm.
team, right? What has
yeah.
happened? What could have gone wrong if we did this? What could have gone miserable for us if we did this? And what went right also.
Hmm.
So present that to the management, team management, and the coaching staff, and then the owners. So they take it up, and we need to plan it. Is after that, my work starts on scouting. Who is going to be the retentions? Who will be released? And make a presentation on that. There are a lot of parameters that are to be decided based on when you release a player, on when you retain a player, what challenges we will have if we get this player, that player, all of that. There are so many parameters that we take assessment on, and then I have to do scouting of players of all the other leagues. It could just not be Indian, players. It has to be the overseas players as well. So we start watching all the cricket around, collect the data again, be able to substantiate it with the evidences of to the coaching staff first. If they are convinced, then they present it to the management, and then the ownership comes in. The owners will come and have their chats as well. So there's a hierarchy. At every step, you should be able to convince them with all that work that you do. This is
Hmm.
with regards to the tournament, but when it comes to the match, pre-match, there's a lot of work. My day starts as early as say 7:30, 8 o'clock. Sit with my work, prepare my work, finish my work, start with the bowling coach. That's where the chunk of work comes up from. Then sit with the head coach, whatever they say, batting coach. All of this is done. Then start sitting with the individual players, and then they will have a team meeting together in the evening. So all of us will go to that and discuss together as a team. The captains will come, captain, vice captain, all of these guys.
Hmm.
Then the team meeting is for the bowlers is done. Then if there are any individual pointers that to be discussed, then the selection meeting happens. Coaches will be there. So I'll go and pass on the data based on the opposition's 11, opposition's 12, 13 players. We will have to pick our players based on what
Mm.
everybody will be prepared for the game. Nobody says that, okay, for this game I'm not there. They don't decide for themselves. So it could be anyone
Hmm.
from the 18 or 24.
That's really an hectic job. Like, I didn't know
Ah,
that there's
it
so
is.
much
It is
preparation.
challenging. Yeah, it is definitely challenging. But like I said, I've said this quite a few times. If you don't have the commitment towards it, I think you cannot move on in this field. It's not just about sitting with a player and trying to take a photograph or wearing a jersey and sitting there in the dugout. No, it is much beyond that. You will have to have, and people will simply, this is a thankless job. I'm not saying that other jobs are like that, but
Of course, yes.
glamorous, but this job is thankless. Nobody will come and say, "Hey, this plan worked for me. You have done it." No, no, and we are not expecting that. The
Hmm.
point is that the satisfying, thought process at the end of the day. When you sit back and see, we did this plan and that worked out. Ultimately, I am not contributing anything to this team. I
Hmm.
am only contributing to my own thoughts. If it goes and works, fine, right? So you have to be able to think like that.
Correct.
and and,
Absolutely.
and this goes on. This is for any team. These some of the matches that you're seeing in IPL, you are able to see the results. Some of the matches where we did in the associate levels and other competitions, you
Mhm.
are not even recognized because they are not as
Yeah.
televised as IPL are.
Yeah.
But the importance of an analyst sitting there in those tournaments and be able to add value to the players in that, the fringe players in that competitions, right, is
Mhm.
massive. They accept it so well. They want to improve. They want to be better. At least here we are talking about the elite cricketers. Even there, the different level of cricketers they are all fighting to come there, right? When the
Mhm.
plan works out for them, they're, oh my God, the satisfaction is immense. I mean, that
Immense, yeah.
cannot be compared with this. Yes, IPL, winning an IPL or qualifying, all that is an achievement and it's a dream for many, right?
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that satisfaction gives you that is the confidence that brings you on here. And there's a
Absolutely.
lot, there is a greater learning in IPL.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
especially like in COVID as well, we always talk, everybody talks about players being exhausted in the bio bubble. But for you as well, the amount of exhaustiveness must be there. That must be quite high. Like I listen to your story right now, it must be really exhausting for you. How did you cope up with this COVID
Yeah,
times?
but it is exhaustive. I mean, like I said, the challenges that comes along with this role,
Mm-hmm.
that is one of those things that you will manage. So you'll have to be mentally prepared to be working for 16, 17 hours a day,
Mm-hmm.
because you're constantly looking at numbers. I can go wrong on numbers at any
Yeah,
stage. I can give wrong information to the coaches by mistake. I can say I can read out the wrong numbers to him. So I have to be so attentive about what I see. So I have to be mentally prepared.
mm, correct. Yeah, and the
I mean,
margin
that
of
is
error
another
is quite
aspect of it.
margin of error is negligible almost. You cannot really make an error there as in the numbers. Yeah,
True,
rightly said.
true.
And
That's why a lot of my workshops. I mean, not the one that I'm doing right now. 28th, there is one workshop that I'm coming up with. This is
Okay.
my, I think, second or third I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my courses, I have registered participants who come and attend my workshops later. Yoga and meditations are part of my program to keep the mental strength and mental toughness as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to get the focus back, to be very attentive, to get to that stage where you are with yourself. To understand how much of you can yourself you can spend time with, and then how much you can brainstorm with yourself. Yes, of course, you talk to 10 people, 10 people will give you different ideas, but what you got to be very clear of what you want to do.
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
It is just me and my computer. That's it.
Correct. You have
Man,
to be in love with the
man
computing.
versus wild and man versus computer here. That's it.
Like you said about your courses, sir, I thought that was a brilliant idea. In fact, when I came to know about you and I researched about you as an IT engineer, I felt that why didn't I think of this? Like I never made a parallel with IT company and cricket. Like you can make a career as an IT engineer in cricket as well. So that was really a great initiative from you, and I'm sure all the young aspiring young analysts would want to join your course.
A lot of people say that only aspiring young people can join. My point is that anybody, not just
Actually, yeah,
young people. Like
correct, correct.
Yeah.
the reason is, as you grow older, you get a lot of experience, and people who have given up the sport in cricket or any other sport, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are the ones who will actually be fit more than the young ones who are actually coming in, right?
Yeah,
Because they
correct.
might not have a parallel career. They will be thinking that, okay, if I leave this, I don't have another career. They go and settle in some governmental jobs and you know all of those. So for
Mm-hmm.
them, if they have some slight inclination towards being in the sport and be able to nurture a talent, be able to help their own people whom they have seen, they have not made it big because they have not got all these things with them before. But
Mm-hmm.
today, a solution is there. All they need to do is to talk about that sport and be able to take that information to the players, and for that they are paid as well,
Absolutely, yeah.
right?
Right.
So that is a risk. That's a small risk they have to take. Yes, central government job, it's guaranteed, and they will be there till they retire and all that. But this is something more, and I personally feel the people who have played the sport should get into the world of analytics and understand from the analytical point of view how it can change the their thinking, the players thinking, and how these people can be a world of difference to their careers.
Correct, correct.
Correct. And yeah, we totally agree to that. So we at Golafik Balaguma, we will put the link to
Link in the
the
description of the
courses
courses. Yes,
that is present in our comment section. So please, whoever is interested in this field, or who has played this field and wants to experience what all goes behind the scenes in the analytical field, please subscribe to this or to do register to these courses.
correct, correct.
And yeah, so yeah, that would be it. And also, I had this question. It's from a ethical point of view, you can say, like, as technology grows, as data is growing, the questions about the ethics is also being going. Like, there was this incident that happened where the analyst or a coach, someone, had some, you can say, showed, using the data, showed some signs or something to the captain, like to the Ian Morgan,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
during the match, right? So what are your thoughts regarding that? Like, is it
Yeah, look,
ethical, is it not ethical?
you see, it's dependent on those individuals. If they wanted to do it on the field, they wanted to have some signals passed on. That is up to them, because they have, look, the analysts have the bird's eye view of the game, right? Because they have the facility of having to see in their screen what's happening live from the
Hmm.
broadcasters' cameras and all that. So it is analyst who actually has a complete vision of what's happening in and around the field. So even when I watch the game sitting from the dugout, if somebody goes inside off the field, okay, for 2 3 overs, I make a note of it. Why did he go down? I will immediately try and find out information from the fourth umpire sitting outside, right?
Hmm.
Why did he go inside? Who is coming? Are they? Is it a valid a swap of the players, the
Yeah.
substitutes, all of that? So there's nothing wrong in it, in my opinion, but I'm not someone who can openly talk
Understood,
about it
Vijay.
today. It's for the bigger people to make a decision
People's.
on whether it's valid or not invalid. But yes, we do pass on the message. We also do a lot of exchange of messages, but that in a stipulated interval, like the timeouts or
Timeouts and
between
Yeah.
breaks, all of that. But if someone is happy doing it, and then if someone is comfortable doing it that way, why not? I mean, you should just simply be able to, at the end of the day, you're getting cricket is getting so competitive here.
yes, yes, yes. Correct.
From in a T20 again, it is no more a bowler's game now. Bowlers are getting developed everywhere. You talk about a bowler trying to execute a wide Yorker, you can only do one thing. When the bowler is bowling, the obvious fields are wide third man, and your mid off comes inside, or your square leg comes inside, and
Hmm.
then the batsman is already predicting that it will be a wider slow ball or a wider
Higher
slow.
option. Correct, correct.
So if that is the case, then where is the game heading towards? So you will have to have some allowance for them, and so there's nothing wrong if your team met. If it's coming from some third person in the crowd, then we understand that, right? Your
Correct.
teammate is giving you that signal, but yeah, this
It's
is my take
also
on it.
it's also up to the captain, right? Whether he's comfortable doing that or not. Ian Morgan, Nasir Hussain has said in Sky Cricket a lot of times that Ian Morgan is someone who likes data and he wants to be constantly in touch with the sports analyst. So it also boils down to whether the captain is comfortable with it or not. So I guess, yeah. But
Definitely.
you made a valid point. The game is evolving and there is lots and lots of data used to, in every ball, data has been used and bifurcated so that they can make it a meaningful.
Not only cricket, talk about badminton, talk about kabaddi. I mean, I
Yes,
have
yes.
I have been part of the dugouts in kabaddi where we immensely use data.
Hmm.
So much of phenomenal data that comes out of the kabaddi game in the 20 minutes in the first half, in
Mhm.
one half.
Mhm.
So much of data is analyzed, and then that information is taken to the players during the game. So,
Hmm.
I mean, when it is happening for any sport, I mean, the point is that the game is evolving. So why not use the technology the right
Correct.
way? It like you said, it could. Your question is whether it is ethical or not. I would not say
Yeah.
ethical or not, but if it can be used in the right way,
Okay.
like it, yeah.
Correct.
You're not selling this data to a betting company or making
Yeah.
illegal use of money,
Yeah.
just to make money, all of that. That is all not right and not acceptable. I mean, it's criminal offense, but you can use it in the right way.
Hmm. Actually, they are trying to bring the
Any
football
more?
tactics into the cricket. That is what I thought, that they are trying to bring the football tactics where in football, I guess there is a lot more involvement of analysts and in between the games. I guess maybe they are trying to do that in a way. English football.
Yeah, look, that's what the innovative aspect of usage of technology is what we should see here. We should not see it as
Yeah.
ethical or unethical.
Mhm.
There are innovative ways to do it. Yes, there are protocols that you can't use a microphone inside the game, inside the ground, which will also give signals from outside. And if you have such doubts, don't do it. But you are just using a board where you present one, some shortcuts, some keywords are there for them to be able to pass on the message, which is okay. Like I said, it's all up to the teams, up to the individuals to do that. So I don't want to make a controversy out of it if at all
Yeah.
it comes tomorrow. So
On a lighter
And
note, when
yeah.
Delhi plays Chennai in IPL, who do
sorry,
you support? When Delhi plays Chennai in IPL, is there a dilemma from your side that because
Delhi,
you are
Delhi,
Delhi, of course.
Delhi.
yeah, of course.
And also, like, sir, I had this from the students or the aspiring sports analyst point of view. I'm on their behalf. I'm just asking, like, is there any internship opportunity or something in the IPL or with you, especially, or with any other team where they can get opportunity to work closely with the live data or with the sports analyst, so that they can learn and it can help them to grow in their career. So is there any such opportunity or anything like that?
Yeah, now the point that I was making to you before on my orientation program on the 28th at
Yeah.
12:30 in the afternoon,
Mm-hmm.
whoever are registered, I mean, whoever are registered can attend that, and whoever are interested can register for that first, right? That will
Okay.
be, I think, a 2 hour session where 30 minutes will be my general talk and a lot of question answer sessions from various parts of the world. People are joining us, they all ask, and everyone will get a lot of questions, their answers for their questions. So my sincere suggestion is that whoever is interested, they could attend that. They could learn a lot from what the others are asking. That will
Mhm.
help, right? It is just not one way of thinking. It is not what I think or what I say will happen there, right?
True.
Correct.
It
True.
is up to the individual also. So some things you might ask which I will not have answer for, but I can still come up with. Yeah.
Correct.
True. And
And
also from the students' perspective, like, is there any open data, like apart from the Kaggle one, the IPL data set? Like, is there any open data where
Uh,
you can work around and learn?
so those things will be in my workshops.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Got it.
So when they subscribe for the workshop, they register for it, and
That
then all my faculties, I have about 5 or 6 guys who also teach my modules. So they will all be
Okay.
sharing all of that, and then you could use those material and then do your work.
Oh, okay.
That's for your self study and learning and all that. Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Okay.
One
Got it.
question
Right,
related to
guys.
IPL again,
All
sir.
good otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Are we done? Oh,
Yeah, no, like
Yeah,
in the end, we just wanted, like, if you can give a short introduction or short overview of your whole course to our audiences, so it would be helpful.
I'll quickly wrap this up because at two
Yeah,
o'clock
yeah, sure.
I'm getting into another call.
okay, okay,
Sure,
okay.
sure.
Okay,
Uh,
sure, sir.
yeah. So for people who are interested in registering for a sports analytical program,
Mm-hmm.
please log into this link which is given in the comment section below. And
Mm-hmm.
this program will effectively be on transforming your passion into profession in sports analytics, where we talk about what sort of avenues for you to be reaching out in the sports verticals. Like it could be a sports broadcasting, sports analytics, sports journalism, anything and everything to do with sports and sports based jobs. So Come in on the 28th of May at 12:30 in the afternoon. So join me, register, and then join me in the program, and you'll have a lot of your questions answered, I'm sure. I'll try to keep it precise and see if you benefit out of it. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you, sir, for
Thank
coming
you.
on the podcast, and it was really informative for us. Like, one thing is doing for the audience, but the other thing is we also learned so much from the podcast. So thank you very much for coming.